Well, I guess I'm live. I just got to make an update about what's been going on in my life. I live in Shelby, Ohio. It's where the men are men and the sheep are nervous. But Lance Combs and Mayor Shag of Shelby. Lance Combs has tried to have me murdered. Daryl Hall has tried to do the murdering. And Shag of Shelby, the poison preacher, or the minister of misery, as I call him. I call him Adolf Stalin Jones at home, affectionately. He is systematically destroying my evidence. Lance Combs has tried to have me murdered. Daryl Hall has been able to keep my stolen motorcycle. Lance Combs since had me set up in Crawford County, where the sheriff over there is he's implemented my kidnapping. When someone gets your picture before they pull you over randomly, it's called a kidnapping. They wanted to have me killed in prison there. I know that's what they wanted to do. But Jesus was riding with me that day. Our mayor is a preacher who puts sodium fluoride in your water that kills the part of the brain that allows you to have a religious experience. A preacher that sends you to hell because he poisons your water with Adolf Hitler's poison. This is not a good man. We have a chief of police, Lance Combs, who has a snitch, Daryl Hall. And all those people who are selling heroin for Daryl, everybody knows what you're doing. He sits out on his motorcycle out there after 13 or 15 DUIs and doesn't have to worry about driving it through town for a reason. Because he waits for Lance to go down the road. He gets on his motorcycle, meets him up the road, snitches, and then comes back here. Daryl was allowed to burn a house down on South Street. Mr. Boyd paid him $15, B-O-Y-D, Boyd, $15 to burn a house down. He sat on his porch and watched that house burn and drank the beer that he bought with the $15. I wonder who bought that house after that house was burnt down, bought the property, pardon me. The man didn't have insurance on his house. I'll bet it was the same Mr. Boyd who was riding my stolen motorcycle up and down the road in front of me because Daryl Hall called him and told him to do it. Because Daryl Hall is Lance Combs' snitch. This is a fucked up town. If you never have to come to Shelby, Ohio 44875, never come to this town. This is an evil, evil place. You would not believe how screwed up this place is, man. They can have you murdered here. They'll have you murdered. The police. I tried to go into Shelby Police Department and report attempted murder. Lance Combs told me he would arrest me if I tried to. I tried to report the arson on South Street. The guy I worked with trained me, Bruce Hartz, trained me at Carton Service in the job that I worked, would not take the report of arson. Arson. He burnt a man's house down that was getting ready to retire. someone that worked in this town and paid their salary. These are not police officers. These are Nazi Gestapo. That's what they are, jackboot thugs. I sat in jail for 10 months waiting on one cop from Shelby to tell the truth that I was being set up. One cop. After 5 times of not going to Shelby Police Department to make a statement, because I knew I was getting set up, I finally did. I took a witness with me and demanded immunity to make a statement about my stolen motorcycle, because I knew they wouldn't want to talk to me about my stolen motorcycle. They don't give a shit about your stolen property. They don't give a shit about your stolen property in Shelby. They don't give a fuck. They don't care about you. They don't care in Shelby, Ohio. The only thing they want is your money. That's all they want. That's all they care about. To protect and serve? Not here, buddy. Not here. If you don't live here, never come here. Don't even stop for gas here. Don't stop. Keep going. Don't come here, man. This is an evil, evil, fucked up place. They held me for 10 months in Crawford County Prison or Crawford County Jail. My lawyer told me, Shag is his name. You don't understand, Mr. Hull. You got this coming to you. When I asked him why he didn't present any evidence, my picture was sent to the arresting officer by Brian Hall an hour or two before we were randomly pulled over. That's called kidnapping, Crawford County. That's called kidnapping. Yeah, when they put me in there, they held me for 5 days. Wouldn't let me make a phone call. For 5 days, I could not tell anyone that I was kidnapped. Brian was bragging before we got pulled over that we were going to get pulled over, and he was setting me up. I thought he was just going to have me murdered. I thought Ed or Angie Hicks would kill me. I called him and told him, I'll dig the hole. You just cover me up. I'll bring the pistol. You could shoot me. Yeah, I had a pistol. Shelby cops were trying to have me murdered. I'm allowed to protect myself. Shall not be infringed, says the Second Amendment. And every time they have a city council meeting, guess what? They all stand up and they take an oath with their hand over their heart to a flag with a fucking fringe on it. They try us under British law. BAR, the bar exam, British Accredited Registry. Do they tell you you're being tried under British law? No. You're too stupid to know it because they fluoridate your water. Adolf Hitler's fluoride, God's water, and we've got a preacher who poisons God's children with God's water, with the crust scraped out of the chimneys of factories. The same poison that Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin used. We are in the last days, my friends. We could be the generation that transcends death and meets Jesus. How do we know? Because it's getting real, people. It's getting real. There's no freedom. There's no government. There's only tyranny. This is an evil place. Never come here, man. Never come to Shelby, Ohio. Never come here. Stay out of this place. don't think you want to come here and invest? If the chief of police doesn't like you, he can have you murdered. He can have your house burnt down. He can have anything happen to you he wants. And guess what the mayor is going to do? The mayor is going to put his name on a piece of paper like he did on my piece of paper, saying you preserve all evidence. And he's going to destroy everything and hold it from you so you can never prove yourself innocent. And you can never prove anything against his police department guilty. I feel bad for the police that really wanted to do the right thing when they joined the police department and had to put up with evil like this. This is evil. This is really evil. We should have a church and state separation for a lot of these reasons. These people get power and they forego the love that they could have gotten from their community. And instead, they settle for the fear-based reaction that they get from tyranny. They would rather have someone afraid of them and subservient than someone who loves them and welcomes them into the community because they're an attribute. Shelby cops have never been an attribute since I've lived here. They've never been an attribute. Now, the fire department, yeah, they're heroes. They saved my house even. God bless you people. But even the judge here, I got subpoenaed from my home so I could go down to the police, what do they call it, Justice Center. I got subpoenaed down there. I didn't know why I was subpoenaed until I got there. And then there's Daryl Hall and a cop, a fat, ugly guy named Fetzer, who doesn't have, I don't know any attributes whatsoever when it comes to personality at all. But he and Daryl Hall are standing across the room talking so loud, I'm across the other side of the room, about how good it is to have a Harley Davidson to ride. The cocksucker who stole my motorcycle and his girlfriend, Fetzer, are teasing me about not having a motorcycle to ride and about how good it is to have a Harley. Daryl kept my motorcycle in his shed and would rev it all night with 5 people around my house to try to coax me outside, to murder me. And Lance Combs let him get away with it. I reported all of this in an interview. I'm not allowed to have a copy of that interview, am I, Lance? Because it would put you in prison. And your girlfriend, Daryl Hall, also. Brian Hall is a snitch for Crawford County. And Daryl Hall is still called the kitchen snitch by the guards at Crawford County. I don't know. I was there for 10 months. Well, they set me up. These are evil sons of bitches. And they got an evil son of a bitch destroying the evidence for them. Right, Shag? When I told him about this, I looked like, I don't know, crackheads on ice when I went in front of these people. Well, if you stand in front of 4 people that have covered up your attempted murder and tried to have you falsely imprisoned, if you try to send me back to prison at this point, you're just trying to have me murdered. Because if they get me back in jail, they're going to kill me. They're going to kill me. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares if you die. Because it would be too big of a mess to clean up. What do you got? the mayor of Shelby, the chief of police, and most of his cohorts. This is an evil, fucked up place. This is the asshole of the whole world. This is the asshole. It's not the armpit. It's not. It's the asshole of the whole world. And this police department right here, that is the zit on the asshole of the whole world. This isn't like North Korea. This is Northern Ohio. And there's no civil liberties whatsoever. The Constitution is dead. My flag is upside down in my yard. The Constitution died in Shelby. Shag killed it. He suspended the Constitution. You have zero constitutional rights here. None. The Constitution is dead in Shelby, Ohio. We are in a constitutional crisis here. We need help. How many times can you ask for peaceful, nonviolent, legal, and lawful redress of your government, and your government meets you with theft, arson, attempted murder, kidnapping, and false imprisonment? That is Shelby. That is Shelby. We are in a constitutional crisis. The Constitution has been suspended here. And we need some fucking help. I have asked for justice every way I know how, except vigilante. Is that what we have to resort to? Vigilante justice? Daryl Hall has done everything he can to me. And every cop in this fucking town has held my legs apart while Daryl Hall has kicked me in the nuts on a daily basis. Why? Because they belong to the same gang. They're pussies. Don't ever move here. Never invest in this town. Don't come ever to this town. Ever. Never come to this town. This is evil personified. I'll probably rant to another blank screen sometime in the future, but people don't come here. This is a heartache waiting to happen. For 10 months, I waited for one good cop in this town to tell him I was being set up. No, it's not for almost, 20, 30 years. They were all just good little Nazis. Every one of them just did what they were told. Especially Majors and Combs. And Mac. Hell, every one of them. Every one of them. There is no freedom here. If you don't have the freedom to speak the truth, you don't have the freedom. You don't have any freedom. The true test of freedom is the freedom to test it. And I want to say something. The tree of liberty must be fed periodically with the blood of tyrants and patriots. We have to go through this process before the fucking government knows we're serious. There's no freedom here, and there won't be until there's something done about it. Now, federal government, you're supposed to step in. when this bullshit happens, I've called the FBI. I've called everybody. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares because there's too many people involved. Too many folks involved. No one gives a shit about a hillbilly named Southall. Nobody cares. Nobody. Nobody cares, man. If you live in Ohio and you know anyone that could help, it ain't going to help me, but I would love for someone to tell me who could help. This mayor, he owns the jurisdiction here in Crawford County. It's owned. Not that it must be owned. I think it's probably just mostly possessed by Satan, as is Shelby. It's a fucked up evil place, man. A fucked up evil place. Fucked up. If a man can sit on his porch, get paid $15, buy a 12-pack of Bud Light, prop his feet up and watch a man's house burn and feel good about himself. Two people, well, pardon me, that's Satan's horns. Two people got told that night that there was a house burnt down and Daryl did it. He told them that he bragged on it. Myself and the girl across the street, Lori. Two people had their lug nuts all but removed the next day. Myself and Lori. Lance Combs told that tow truck driver to leave me on the side of the road. He came and got his jack out from underneath my car after all my lug nuts flew off. This is the day after Daryl Hall told me he was going to murder me, and Lance Combs said I was a liar and refused to look at my audio and video evidence. My lug nuts go flying off. My tire comes off. I call the tow truck driver. He comes, puts his stuff on underneath my truck or my car, and comes back and makes some bogus excuse, takes his equipment off and leaves for almost 5 hours. I didn't know who he talked to on the phone and why he left me on the side of the road after an attempted murder, didn't call the police, and just left me there. Well, about 5 hours later, he come back, put my tire on. So I go down in Shelby Police Department. I try to report the attempted murder. Then I found out who he was talking to on the phone. Yeah, Lance met me in the parking lot. Wouldn't even let me on the property. Wouldn't let me in the door. Wouldn't let me on the curb to come up in the house or in the door. Told me he would arrest me if I didn't get off the property. I said, I'm just trying to report attempted murder. If you don't leave, he said, I'm not here for you to insult. I don't remember insulting you. I just said, I tried to report this yesterday, but no one would take my report. He called me a liar. Lance Combs has a snitch. His name is Daryl Hall, the Crawford County kitchen snitch. Brian Hall is his brother. The fuck is his other, or his son, pardon me. Daryl Hall's brother, his name is Spider, kind of stupid shit. But anyway, they would sit out in front of my house in his brother's red van, teasing me about stealing my motorcycle. How lucky I am for have them steal my bike, because I can't handle it. I'm not a biker, and they're biker material. That's the kind of people who are protected by Shelby Police Department. Thieves, murderers, and arsonists. If you say something that they don't agree with, you will be murdered, burnt out, or terrorized. Don't come here. Stay far away from this town. This is an evil, fucked up place. And because there's no oversight, There's no transparency. They have no leadership. They have nothing here. They've got a preacher who will cover up the evidence if you get murdered. That's the kind of government we have here in Shelby. Yeehaw. This is the death of 1,000 cuts to the Constitution. If you can't speak about what you think about, you might as well not think. You might as well not even have a thought, because you're not allowed to talk about it. We are living in a messed up time, my friends. But this system has to fall before another one can be instituted or implemented. Stay out of this town. Stay out of this part of the country. This is an evil, evil, evil burg. Evil, evil, evil. Stupid evil. I mean, I didn't know if our government was mostly evil, stupid people or stupid, evil people. Ain't that some shit, man? I spent 10 months in jail, and I'm on 5 years probation. And I was waiting on a preacher to tell the truth. Nowadays, you got to beg a man of God to tell the truth about something. My mom is old. And she's going to live the last of her years thinking I lied to her about being set up. When after 5 times I went down to the police station and finally made a report telling them I was being set up by Combs. My Social Security paperwork has it written in it 5 times. If I die unexpectedly, Lance Combs is responsible for it, but Daryl Hall probably did it. Yeah. My lawyer had a journal handwritten by myself at least a half a dozen times saying what is happening, what I'm talking about right now, that I'm being set up, that I'm being terrorized, and that Lance Combs wants to set me up so he can facilitate my murder, because at least twice, probably 3 times, the weapon that I had in my pocket when I got arrested had saved my life. And Daryl and Brian Hall had communicated to Lance Combs they couldn't murder me while I could protect myself. And when I was in the interview with Shelby Police Department, I made this statement: Lance Combs wants to facilitate my murder by taking my right to my Second Amendment away from me so Daryl Hall can murder me. I made that statement in Shelby Police Department after 5 times of not going there because they were setting me up. I made that statement, and they still took my Second Amendment and still put me in jail and set me up. After all that time of me saying, please help me, they're going to set me up so they can take my Second Amendment away. So Daryl and Brian and Ed and Angela Hicks, one of them, can murder me. How many times do you have to say, please help me? They're going to set me up so I could be murdered. How many times? More than I did, obviously. Lance Combs is an evil person. He couldn't be such an evil person if it weren't for Shag destroying his evidence, He's a mayor and a preacher. That you want to tell the truth. There ain't no truth in this town. If there's no truth, you can't have justice. Calling Bata Justice Center in Shelby is like calling Planned Parenthood a daycare center. This is an evil, fucked up place, man. I've told the sheriff in Crawford County. I've told the sheriff in Richland County, and they're supposed to deal in constitutional issues. They don't care, man. They don't care. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about me. They don't care. I don't know. I'm going to probably try to make some more videos here pretty soon. I got a lot of evidence to document. I got a lot of evidence that is in the past, but I've got to document it now because I was afraid to put it down because I really didn't want them to know how much evidence I had. Well, since I started coming out with this, 4 years after my false imprisonment and my kidnapping, they've had me on felony probation. 4 years. I don't go out of my house. I don't tuck my head up out and look out. Because I ask for the evidence that they used to prosecute me, i.e. the video evidence and the stuff from Shelby here. They've upped my probationary level. After 4 years of not getting in trouble and no record previous, because I ask for the tape of my arrest, because if you get that tape, that cop was under that seat twice looking for the gun. I told him was there. He couldn't find the gun for 10 minutes. He was under that seat for 10 minutes. And then 2 hours later, he comes back and says, oh, I found a bunch of drugs under that seat. You know there wasn't any drugs under that seat if you saw that tape. I've asked for my evidence, and now they've upped my probationary level. They've upped my probation after 4 years of not getting in trouble, not doing anything wrong. I asked for my evidence, and now they've upped my probation. They've ordered me in, and I got to take a piss test and all this stuff. Trying to put me back in prison so they can have me murdered there for what they set me up for to begin with. Stay the fuck out of this town. Never come here, man. Don't invest here. Don't ever, ever, ever come here. Don't even stop for gas, man. This is a disgusting, evil place. Disgusting. Well, God bless you. And remember what my mom said. Roll your sleeves up before you wipe your butt.